Jolie Dawn, and today I'm going to interview Kristina Johnson, who I freaking love, and you guys will love so much. I actually met her at Awesomeness Fest, and she is such a big personality. She's so much fun to be around, and she's crushing it in the world. She's done events and retreats and speaking engagements all over the world. Her brand and her company is You Can Do It Diva, and she stands for women really owning their power, owning their sexuality, owning their spirituality, and doing what they actually want to do in the world. So she is incredible. You guys are going to absolutely love her. And today we're going to talk about the journey of entrepreneurship and get in her world and how she started it. So welcome, Kristina.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And the good news is it's Kristina Italic now.
Kristina Italic.
Yeah. So thank you for having me on. And entrepreneurship is a really fun topic for me. So I'm excited.
Beautiful. Yay. So let's jump right in. Why don't you just share with us what you're currently working on and what has you most excited right now?
Yeah. So what I am currently working on, which actually has me really super excited, is a platform called Queen Bee. And it got developed from what you were just actually saying about I'm an advocate and a cheerleader for spirituality, for femininity, for entrepreneurship, for like the whole kit and caboodle that women are bundled up into, like for all of it. And I was having conversations around women feeling like, well, they need to do one thing or the other in order to find their place in the market, or they need to do one or the other for people to understand what they were doing. And I was also hearing a lot of almost like shame and places that women were denying themselves instead of actually embodying all of it. And as I was doing some writing one day, a quote came through, and what it was to be queen of your world is to be bold enough to own it, courageous enough to do it, and audacious enough to be it. And as I sit with it, it makes me so excited because I was just like, yeah. And it's now kind of become the foundation of the new platform that I've created through You Can Do It Diva, which is a Queen Bee. And it's really about unapologetically celebrating and expressing all of who we are as women. And that goes back from when I say our grits, our gifts, and our greatness. It's like we've gone through all of these things and we've experienced all of these things in life. And oftentimes as we move forward, we dismiss pieces of it because we think, oh, we don't need that, or oh, I didn't like that, or what did that serve, or I just want to get away from it. But in actuality, it's like the texture and the color that allows us to show up uniquely as ourselves and also bring something original and sacred to the world that's just us and that nobody else can truly duplicate. And so I set out to do Queen Bee, and that has me the most fired up because it's really about engaging women into this place of expression that allows them to be everything that they really desperately and deep desire want to be in the world. And it's all about through creativity and expression, not content-based. So we get to go through a lot of music, a lot of personal expression, and we do deep work, but it's not that like chiseling away. It's more of this open and expressive and creative type of a platform to really get women into their own expression, to the voices, and sharing their unique gifts with the world. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Fun. So is that a group coaching program setting?
Actually, it's a workshop. So right now I have a one-day workshop, and I'm actually getting ready to do one here in LA this weekend. And I tour it. And then I have a 3-day, what I call my studio, which is definitely more intensive and more, we're a smaller group of women, we come together, and it's more about getting your personal expression and greater visibility, whether it be in your own personal life or in your business. But that's the two platforms that I have right now currently available and open and excited to share.
Awesome. Look at you hustling and creating. That's so fun. So fun.
It is super fun. It is super fun.
So as you were talking about unapologetically being all of you, you just so represent that as a woman who walks into a room and your presence is known. Your feminine power is known. So I'm curious, was there a time when you didn't feel like you had that feminine power, that charisma, and that presence?
Yeah. Yeah, people often ask me, they're like, do you teach confidence? And I'm like, no, I can't teach confidence, because confidence, I feel on a deep level, is just a byproduct or a result of doing the deep work, of following your heart, of following your passion, and committing to yourself fully. And so, you know, it wasn't even too long ago, I would say 3 years ago, at the end of 2011, that it was a pivotal moment in my lifetime, which I talk about even in my books, about where I was at the top of my career, and on my resume and everything else looked like, oh my gosh, she's so incredible and amazing. And I had judgment around it, because I didn't know how to relate to people, because when I would share like what I was kind of feeling inside, they were like, but do you know what you can do? And do you know who you are? And like all of these things. And it felt a little bit dismissive, because on the inside is you have the finances, or you have the career, you have the job, or you have all of these things that even I was striving for, that feel good, or they look good, or they're like what we think everybody wants. I had them. And on the inside, I was crumbling, and I felt like I had no one really to talk to, and that could kind of like reach down and pull me, or be like, I got you, let's go. And it really spiraled me into a really dark place. And I was actually, it was December 31st of 2011, and had that night not been a pivotal moment in my lifetime, I would not be here today, because pure desperation and pure surrendering that evening, I was bawling on the floor. I had just come to LA, and it was, God help me now, or I don't know what to do, because I knew deep down there was something greater for my life, but I was so bogged down by this feeling of inadequacy, this feeling of like, who am I? This feeling of like guilt and shame, like just weighing so heavily on me, that I couldn't take it anymore. And through that process of just purely surrendering and purely just staying like, God, like take the wheel, like I got nothing else for you, I really started going through this process of deepening my relationship with my spirituality, but also realizing that the deep work that we do, what I mean by that is committing to ourselves, committing to this higher calling within us, or committing to what we really, really want. And in order to find that out, we have to give ourselves permission to fail. We have to give ourselves permission to try something new. And that, I think, is probably one of the biggest moments that was a catapult of where I'm at now. Because had I not gone to what I would call like the lowest of lows, and in a very self-destructive place, I would have just been in a very rote pattern of just like creating, doing my career, looking good on paper. Yes, I get a salary, I can travel, but I would have been more and more disconnected. And through this process, although it's not the safest route, or it doesn't look like at times like this direct path, though when you commit to it, it is truly what allows us to fully be present, allows us to fully show up, and to create and lead the life that we truly want. And I feel that's like the truest essence of entrepreneurship. It's like, we think about it, we have this idea, we don't know if it's going to work, but let's try it out. And you kind of like, I look at it as like this image is like, you try and you kind of figure it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You can fail, but it's really like, how do you pick yourself up from that failure, and how do we look at it? And I feel like a quote that I created too through that process was, failure is a doorway to possibility.
Wow.
So, yeah. I felt like that was like a huge pivotal moment, because I was so afraid to fail that I wouldn't try. And when I started like shutting that away and just being like, what's the worst that could happen? I'm already an internal disaster. Like, what else could go wrong? And so when I got to that place of just trying and allowing each quote unquote perceived failure to be a doorway to something new, it's really amazing how your life starts shifting. And I think that's the beautiful journey of entrepreneurship.
So how many years now in full entrepreneurship?
On full entrepreneurship, I would say it's been since 2009. because I was a consultant. I'm a therapist by trade, and so I became a consultant, and I created my own business doing that for several years. But when I left out of, even though I was my own business and entrepreneur, I left out of the corporate sector to completely thrive in my own entity with all I wanted to do without the structure of a corporation. I would say that's been since 2012. So I guess 3 years now, solely without the structure of a corporate and just me being the sole entity and then finding and kind of branching out to whichever way I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm. And so you always look so happy. You look like life is working and you look like your life is flourishing. And are you really that happy?
Yes, you know, I am really this happy. Do I have moments that I'm not happy? Yes, but I've realized from being in such a dark place, happiness is a choice. And we can find our way there, or we can stay stuck in the darkness. And I do have kind of a different philosophy of looking at pain or darkness, because I feel like what I give my feelings, kind of, I give them entities, because I feel like we respect entities often more than we respect ourselves. So when I think of the pain, or I think of the darkness, I feel like I could allow her to destroy me. I could resist her arms up and be like, oh no, I'm not doing that. And really, I feel like she's kind of like art. She'll destroy us. Or I can allow myself to be the canvas, and she just paints me, and I get to flow, and I get to just to see where she wants to take me, how I want to go on this journey where I become like a masterpiece of her art. And so that's how I choose to look at it. It's not that I don't have really painful experiences, or that I don't have really emotional or like the darkness. It's that I refuse to give the darkness any more authority or power in my life than I do the happiness. I'm just learning that in order to fully live, you have to have this full spectrum, because you can't have one without the other. It's like if you think of a spectrum of light, you can't reflect if you can't absorb. So if I can't have and thrive in this place of darkness or this pain or like whatever life kind of throws, then I can't have this full spectrum of complete light and radiant joy of just being present and being alive. Like, I feel like you just can't have the two spectrums without having the depth to go with it. And so, yeah, I am really this happy, but it's not because I have a facade. I'm like, oh yes, life's so good. It's like, no, I've learned to appreciate that every aspect of life is a part of it, to grow and to evolve and to be a piece of my masterpiece being created.
Oh my gosh, girlfriend, I love it. It's all about framing it. It is so, and you said it so beautifully. And I asked you that question because that's a question that I get asked a lot is, can you really be that happy? And I always say it's a choice, and you have the power to choose for yourself too. So it's so beautiful that you spoke into that.
Yay.
And so another thing that I'm curious about is, you know, entrepreneurship seems like the ultimate act of freedom. And and it really can be, and it really can't be at times. But I'm curious, Kristina, what does freedom mean to you, mean in your life, and what does freedom look like in your life?
Yes. You know, Jolie, that's a really, really good question. And I'm actually very excited that you're asking that, because I do believe there's a facade around freedom. And I also believe there is a definition that each person has in regards to freedom. And for me, freedom is expression, freedom to create, and freedom to be, and freedom to travel. That's what freedom is to me. And I think about like going back, and people are like, well, you could do that if you had the money, or you could do that if this, and I actually beg to differ, because one, you can't have one without the other. And in order to really thrive, I believe as an entrepreneur, you have to know your why, because entrepreneurship is not for the faint at heart. And what I mean by that is you kind of have to be in a constant place of evolution and a constant place of creativity. And you have to learn how to channel that creativity, because it's always abundant and it's always there. But if you're not this open channel to let it flow through us, we can get locked up in the fear of the unknown. we can get locked up and being in scarcity of not knowing when the next paycheck's going to come until you get a system in place. And it's really allowing yourselves permission to explore. And so for me, entrepreneurship gives me the free right to be the creative director of my life, because I personally don't like being told what to do. And I don't like being able to be in a box. And what I mean by that is, as a therapist, I'm in the medical model. I do so much richness that isn't okay per my definition and per the medical guidelines, as well as by my boards, what I do in this paradigm. And if I go outside of, like, let's say the medical world, and I'm now into this world, I have free reins. And I get to add in my clinical reasoning, which is so important to what I do. I get to add in my creativity. I get to add in my sass. I get to add in my fashion and, like, my playfulness and my femininity into the mixing pot of how I want it to look. And so I feel like that, to me, is like what entrepreneurship gives me, and that's the freedom that I choose and that I truly deeply desire for myself. But I also believe entrepreneurship, unless you're able to be flexible and learn how to expand and be open to the roller coaster of a ride, I think you have to kind of reframe how you look at it, because it can be the most freeing. Or if you get locked up and gridlocked in the hows and like the systemized and, like, oh my gosh, the safety net's not there, you can get gridlocked and you don't flourish at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a lot of the women watching right now are wanting to start in entrepreneurship, or they've just started. And so a lot of the questions that I get is curiosity around schedule and planning your routines and staying accountable to yourself. So do you have a system there?
To have a system, yes. You know, it's so interesting. I get asked this question a lot, and I want to go back and answer one thing for your viewers, because I think it's really important. As women, we are natural collaborators. I feel like as a society, we're not really conditioned to ask for help. And so one of the most powerful tools any entrepreneur, but I want to emphasize really for women, is to ask for help and ask for support, and that you don't do it alone. Because at the minute a woman will segregate herself and try to figure it out on her own, she will go down, or she can potentially go down a rabbit hole, and that she doesn't fully thrive. Because our power is in giving ourselves permission not to know all the answers, but be committed to finding the answers by simply asking and giving ourselves permission to ask. So I want to put that out there, because I think it's really, really important, because I feel like that's often a place that women don't do. And it's like, I don't know. So I feel like support and ask is really important. And as far as a schedule, I don't have a set schedule. What I do have, though, or what I can speak to, is I'm highly accountable, because I know what I want. And when I'm not being committed to what I want, I know that something's not in alignment. Because if I'm just not meeting deadlines, or I'm not, like, showing up fully, something's not right. Because for me, when I want something, I have no trouble scheduling it. The other piece that I would say is make sure you schedule creative time and self-care time. Those are the pieces that I don't think women put in. And I know for myself now, where I'm at in my career, every Tuesday and Thursdays are my creative, where I take my artist on a date and I feed my soul. Maybe it's my writing, because I'm adding a lot now of my performing arts to when I speak. I'm now adding a lot of my playfulness and my performing arts in it. And so I want to show up more expressive in my own career path and my own personal journey. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays are my creative days. I've scheduled everything around that. So all my meetings, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. There was a time that I worked 7 days a week. And then when I felt out of balance, and I think this is the key of getting women to kind of tune into themselves and kind of understanding their ebbs and flows. If you're getting gridlocked and overwhelmed, if you're feeling like so much anxiety and heaviness, most of the times you're out of alignment, and I'll share what that means in a minute, and you need more space. There is the facade that if you work more, you get more done, but it's a very feminine but also creative process to allow space for things to move, because if every inch of every day is scheduled, there's no flow. Energetically, there's no flow. There's no creative flow. There is nothing for our brain to like do other than it gets into do. And we miss a lot of opportunity that could potentially be even more amazing doorways to greater things because we're so wrapped up in the do. So one of the first things that I recommend any entrepreneur, especially the ones that are like have a job and are just now starting and now making the transition, is allowing some space. And it can be a couple of hours. It can be one time a week to create, to be, maybe it's to go to the beach, maybe it's to journal, but something that allows them to kind of quiet down their brain and kind of recenter with their body. And that's what I mean by out of alignment, of like when we're having all these anxieties and fear, it doesn't allow us to truly show up. And that's the out of alignment. It's like our bodies are showing us, hey, something's not right. Listen to me. I don't like this. You're not paying attention to me. I want to guide you, but I need you to hear me. And so that's the piece that I think is really important. And to hold yourself accountable, I think it's really knowing you as an individual. And it's, again, that attunement. If you know that you tend to not honor yourself or your commitments due to we have excuses or fear kicks in, then set in a system that allows you to be more accountable. Maybe it's a partner, maybe it's deadlines or your calendar to set off alarms. Like, I think that is a piece that it's by trial and error, and you only figure it out as you give yourself permission just to try.
Oh my gosh, Kristina, there was so much juicy goodness in there. There was so much. And honestly, the piece you said around, like, if I'm bumping up against resistance or something, or I'm missing meetings or something not in flow, it's because I'm out of alignment. Or I'm aware of something that I don't recognize that I'm aware of. Like, I'm losing steam in this project and it wants to go another direction, or I'm pushing it to look a certain way, but it wants to be something else. So it's so huge.
True. So true.
Yeah. And another thing that I love that you said is, I harness the power of my own excitement for things, I think is what you said, or I don't have to really keep myself accountable because when I want something, I go for it. So can you speak to that passion? Because I just so see you, like, you can feel that passion when you're around you. And I can just think in the minds of the listeners right now, like, how do I get that? How do I harness that? How do I be that passionate about something?
Yes. I would think if I'll give you tangible things is, I guess the biggest way I would say is just journal. And I know that kind of at times can be simple, but here's the thing. When you give yourselves permission to free flow, all the jargon, all the negative chatter, all of the restrictions and limits that we put on ourselves, and a committed process. So for example, there's an amazing book that I recommend any person who's creative at all or wants to go on the entrepreneur journey, and you may have already read it yourself, Jolie, is The Artist Way. And it is an incredible book because creativity is energy exchange no matter what facet. It can be the performing arts, or it can be entrepreneurship, because you're constantly diving down into that energetic flow of creativity. And one of the most powerful practices for me was committing to myself every day, 15 minutes or 3 pages to journal. And the journaling wasn't, let me think about what to write. It was purely a dumping zone of every fear, of every anxiety, of every negative thought, of anything that I was like, there is no way in hell you're going to do this. Like, I would just write and write and write, because it's like this transfer of just like gunk taking space in ourselves that we can't move through, and so we get it out. And so when I committed to that every single day, it became longer and longer for me personally, because it was just such a release that so much would spark in it. And that's the piece I'm saying of the inward journey, is in order to truly find your passion, like some people just know, and it will change as you evolve. And I think that's the other piece of giving ourselves permission to play with it. But truly to kind of know that, we have to ask ourselves these questions that most people never do. And it is, what really excites me? What gets me up in the morning? What do I love to do? If I could do anything with no fear, no anxiety, no worry, no matter of money, to do anything, what would it be? And give ourselves permission to really go into those spaces without someone else looking at it, but just for our own permission. We start finding what excites us. What gets me like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to wake up in the morning, or this project gets me so fired up, I can't wait to work on it. And I think that's the place of the creative process that is just the journey. And that passion is like, once you kind of peel down the layers that keep us locked or like stuck or stagnant, it's just like free flowing, and it's something that you can open yourselves up to experiencing, and that we all have. And again, I believe passion comes a lot from giving yourselves permission to fail and to get out of the status quo, because lots of times we dismiss our passions as, oh, well, that's not going to be a good business, or everybody's talented, or I can't do this because my degree is in this, and oh my gosh, I'm so old, how am I going to do that? It's too late for me. Those things kind of squash our passion and the fire that burns in our soul. And to reignite that is to kind of connect and let it out and be expressive and just try. You know, one of the biggest things I find with the women that I have coached, I say, if you're not failing epically every week, then you're not trying hard enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge.
Right?
Yeah. There's so much permission in that. And I've also heard, like, if you don't get 5 no's by 12 p.m., you're not asking for enough things.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's just the playfulness. Like, that is what we can allow ourselves, being like, okay, well, that wasn't that bad. Let me do some more. It's that expansion and playfulness of like, I'm just going to do this. Mm-hmm. And losing attachment to how it's supposed to look. I feel like one of the biggest things is, as especially transition from like a job to an entrepreneur role, is we give ourselves deadlines like this. Well, I'm going to give myself 6 months, and if I'm not productive 6 months, then I'm just going to go back. Well, that's kind of like being halfway into any relationship. I'm only going to put my toe in it, because if I put my whole heart in it, I could get hurt and I could fail, and I don't really want to do that. It's like, you need to be in it. You got to be committed to it and be flexible. Maybe you're not making the productivity deadline, or you're not making the revenue that you wanted to make at 6 months. How can you shift it? Or do you need to go get a part-time job a little bit to get some money in to fund it, and just reconfigure? Well, I thought I'd be here by 6 months, but I wasn't. Now I do need to get some revenue in. It isn't working, so I can reevaluate and keep moving forward. That's the flow that we have to constantly dance with to move forward. But if you're giving it like, 6 months and I'm done, I think you need to ask yourself, how committed are you? And is this really what you want?
Mm-hmm. A couple things that I picked up from that, and I'm so happy you talked about journaling, because I picked up journaling almost a year ago when I was transitioning out of a relationship, and I just felt like there was so much going on that I needed to deal with, and I have never stopped since. It's just kind of like a personal commitment to myself, and everything goes in there, and it's like, like you said, it's like we have so much going on in the brain space, and having a place to just get it all sorted, then we can really come to a new level of stillness and be able to think, like, what do I actually want if I'm not worried about like this and that trigger and this mom thing and this thing I need to work out and finances and how that friend said this. And if we just get it all out, it's such a mental detox. Yeah.
And you know, something else that we talked about briefly before, but it really comes down to what you're saying. It's also one of the quickest ways, especially for women, to reconnect to their own voice. Oftentimes, women need so much validation from other women and approval and acceptance because we don't trust our own inner voice. And allowing that dump to go down and to hear the stillness within, to hear that quiet voice and give her permission to talk to us, to express to us, to be free within us without the jargon of our head, is how we can start gaining power and gaining deeper connection with ourselves, so that we start to trust on a much deeper level, which is extremely important as we go through journey and to go through entrepreneurship, of trusting ourselves and our decisions, that we make the best on what we know and how we can evolve as a business and as entity and as ourselves.
Yes. Reconnecting to your voice. And
Yes.
The second thing that I pulled from you saying is just being willing to play. And I was talking about this with a girlfriend the other day, and really business is a game. You learn the rules and then you play, and you balance your knowledge and expertise and completely making it up as you go. So do you feel like there's times where you're just like winging it, completely making it up and being like, I guess this is what I do, you know, just tapping into what I think that I know?
I feel like that's most of my life.
Yeah, all the time. I do it all the time.
All the time. It's so true. I feel like, you know, it's like once you trust yourself, once you give yourselves permission to fail, and once you give yourselves the permission to truly surrender, you find comfort in the uncomfortable. You find that place to be secure, and like I sometimes say, the shark-infested waters, because you're just like, I don't know, I'm gonna just figure it out as I go, and you start realizing that it just works out. It's kind of crazy, but I say that it's kind of crazy, but we also know that it isn't. We're just giving ourselves more permission to try and to fail and to explore, to experience things, and look, you know, what worked, what didn't. This is a common facade that I think is, like I was sharing, like when people give themselves 6 months to the business, do or die. And I think about, if you think about and I love giving entities or things, if you think about giving your business as a baby, as an infant, as an idea that you conceive, and it goes through this process, well, even at 2 years, it's a toddler. What happens to a toddler? It falls down, she gets up. He falls down, she gets up. She's cruising along. Like, all of these things developmentally happen with the toddler. And so even at 2 years, you can be extremely successful, but you're going to have this like learning curve that goes along with it. And I think if we can kind of remember 3 years out, 6 months out, like what's a baby doing at 6 months? Like, it's still needing a lot of nurturing and a lot of attention and love and support. You kind of have to think about that as you go and do this journey of entrepreneurship, that it's a process, and it isn't this overnight success story. And anyone that tells you that, that's not real. But
oh my gosh, girlfriend, that's something that I needed to hear too. Just getting, you know, my business is about, you know, just about 2 years old, and it is in its infancy, and there's this idea that I should be further along, or like we tend to compare ourselves to other people, especially when people are giving like sales projections that don't have their expenses built in, and so it looks much higher, and we compare ourselves to numbers that aren't even really real, like the 6-figure year mark, but how much did you have to spend to get to that? And
it's all like, just trust and know that you're doing your best. Excuse me. And you said something really, really powerful, Jolie, that we all need to remember. Do not compare. Do not compare, because there's so much facades and smoking mirrors, as I call them, out there, that just what you said, they give one number. It's like, I know so many companies are like, oh, I'm a $6 million business, but they're in the hole because it doesn't matter. They make $6 million, but they got $10 million of debt. Like, it doesn't matter. And so it's what I just always want to think. You may not make 6 million, maybe you make, you know, and one of the common entrepreneurs, especially women, make $50,000 a year. So what if you make $50,000 a year, but you have no debt? Who's more successful? Just add some zeros and a lot more stress at the other end. So huge, Jolie. We cannot compare what it looks like, because lots of times how it looks is not the reality of where it really is. So.
Yes. Oh my gosh, girl. I'm so grateful to have this conversation. Every single word you've been saying, I've been hanging on like, yes, yes, yes. That's exactly what I need to hear. And any parting words of wisdom for the ladies who are watching about like getting started, believing in themselves, mindset, anything that you would just like to share with them?
Yes. Do it. Never take no for an answer. And just give yourselves permission to try. If it's in your soul, you're playing with it, there's a reason. Just do it and don't let anybody ever tell you no. And if they do, this is what I do. And I feel like if anyone tells me no, or anyone acts like, oh, who is she? Or like you kind of get that negative vibe, it is such fuel for me to be like, okay, just watch me. Just watch me. You think I'm nobody, it's okay. Just watch me. And I say that playingly, but I feel like it's a really deep concept for all of us to remember, is that we get to choose how we look at things. We get to choose how we see our world. We get to choose how we play in our world. Do you want to be played by somebody else telling you what you can and cannot do? Or do you want to play how you want to play? So if someone tells me no, I'm like, okay, watch me. Because I'm playing by my rules. Like I am a bit of a rebel in there, and I'm like, okay, you don't think I can do it? Watch me. And I share that as just like if you have a dream, go for it. You will figure it out as you go, and give yourselves permission to fail and get back up. Fail again and get back up, because it's just this journey that is like, and I always say life is a work of art. Art is not perfection. It's a process.
Yes. Oh my gosh, girlfriend. I love it. You're like, just do it. Jump in, start creating. Yes, you'll make mistakes, but you always learn. That's the growing pains. That's how you learn along the way.
For sure. It's always, just do it.
How can the girls connect with you? What's the best way to keep up with what you're doing?
Yes. So you can connect with me at my website, which is www.youcandoitdiva.com. It is in the middle right now of an overhaul, but please feel free. It'll still be the same. So for any reason that it's not up when they go, they can also email me at Kristina with a K at youcandoitdiva.com. And then also I'd love to gift your ladies, whoever messages me or contacts me through the site or lets you know, Jolie, a free copy of my ebook called Fun, Flirty, and Fabulous.
Ooh, yay, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. Hey, I want a copy of that too.
I will give it to you. Yeah, and what this book is really about how to make our daily routines, because we all have them. How do we make them more creative? How do we stay in our feminine? How do we make our routine playful and fun and not get locked up in the roteness of it and the monotony of everything? Because everyone has the same up and down lives. It's just how, again, we look at it and how can we stay creative. And the book is just filled with just fun ideas, flirty ideas that allow women to be more expressive and creative in their own lives.
I love it. So beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a picture of us for social media.
Yes, I would love it.
1, 2, 3. And I will post your links on this YouTube link below for the ladies so they can get the free book and the free gift. And I'm just so grateful that you were willing to come and share what you know and share your expertise. And you truly are such a gift to have as a friend. You embody the free, empowered woman, the woman who's owning her sexy and owning her beauty. And it's just really such a gift for me to share you with my people in the world.
I love it, Jolie. Well, you're amazing. Keep doing what you're doing, because of you, entrepreneurship, especially for women, is getting easier and easier. And there's no reason why women should not do it and try it out, because now there's more women like yourselves that are stepping up and being like, this is what I know, learn from what I have. And it's much more resourceful. So thank you for doing what you're doing. It was such a pleasure to be here.
Yes, yes. Sending you so much love, my dear, and we'll chat very soon.
Ciao.
Bye.